All right, so so there I was, standing in the middle of a 4-lane freeway, standing in a suit, in a blizzard, with 10 highway patrolmen pointing the weapons at me. And it was at that time I knew I hit rock bottom. I'm just doing one shot on this video. Hi, my name is Jeremy Peacock. This is my first video in a series about bipolar disorder. In 1996, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I was 19 years old. And the purpose of this video is to help those out there that either have bipolar disorder or some sort of depression problems. And by help, I don't mean by any medical advice or anything like that. I am not a doctor. I am not a lawyer. So this is all for entertainment purposes only. But I do have quite a story that I do want to share with all of you, that if I can only help one person, just one person, one of you, then it's been worthwhile for me to do this. Cause back in 96, it was a hard world to live in with bipolar disorder. It wasn't as mainstream as it is today. That was something you kept quiet. Everybody was supposed to be normal. Everybody was, it was, you didn't want to be the outcast, you didn't want to be different, right? And so, anyway, when I first started coming down with bipolar disorder, I did not know what it was, what was going on, and how it happened. I just got back from Hawaii with my family. My parents and my cousins and aunt and uncle, and we just flown back, and I just started a new job. I'm from Utah, and I started at a sheetrocking company that my friend worked at, and he got me a job there because I was always interested in the trades. And I started working that job, and everything was going great for those first few weeks. Just normal me, just like, and I was getting compliments from the foreman. I was getting compliments from even other contractors saying, "Hey, this guy is an ace. Why don't you come work for us? You do a good job." I was raised with a strong work ethic, and I've always been proud of how hard I work. So just to kind of give you an insight into my character a bit. So over the next few days, I started noticing a change in my sleep. I started sleeping differently. I had a hard time falling asleep. And it just started out really, really subtle. We didn't know exactly, what it was. If I felt sick or whatever. So this continued on for days, nights, many days, many nights, getting to where I started to dread going to work the next day because I didn't know how much sleep I was going to be getting that night. And nobody really, and I asked my family and stuff or whatever, and nobody really knew, I'm not sick or whatever. And so anyway, didn't think much of it. Well, my condition started to rapidly deteriorate. It got to the point to where at night, I wouldn't actually sleep. I wouldn't drift off and lose consciousness and go to sleep. I would just lay there with my eyes closed, trying to sleep for hours and hours and hours, just laying there, trying to sleep in some sort of, weird lucid state where you're not really sleeping, you're not really awake, you're just in kind of this weird middle ground. And so when the next day when you get up, or when you're supposed to get up, and you are exhausted. Like you haven't even slept a wink. I felt like I had no rest whatsoever. And you could notice a change in my physical appearance, like my eyes, my weight, things like that. And what I mean by my eyes is, it's just kind of a hard look to describe. It's kind of like a wide-eyed look, like Like, you ever hear of a cop or someone saying that someone's trying to kill them and they looked at them and they couldn't see anything there? It's that kind of a blank stare, like there's nobody home. And people started noticing that. It was weird. Me first, you look yourself in the mirror every day and imagine just all of a sudden one day you don't look the same. You don't really feel the same. There's something changing within you and you don't know what it is. So anyway, so this carried on to the point where I was getting no sleep. I had a job that I didn't know. I was starting a whole new field that I'd never done before, which I'll add more why that was a contributing factor to what happened. Me taking a new job, that was a contributing factor to my overall coming down with bipolar disorder, and I'll explain that later. So it eventually got to the point where I couldn't really focus. I couldn't concentrate. I had a hard time focusing, hard time concentrating. My mind would just go blank. Like I would go to do something I would normally have done a million times, tie your shoe, whatever. I'd have to think about it for a minute. Like, hold on, can't even tie my shoe. And so just normal mundane tasks just started to get more difficult for me. And I don't know why. So imagine that. So imagine just trying to tie your shoe and then having it be a task all of a sudden, right? You kind of panic a little bit, right? So all these little things just kept happening to where, I just kind of lost touch of this, kind of forgot how to do that, and kind of just not sleeping, kind of just not eating either, and that's when families started to get concerned and everybody started to get concerned. There's always a lot of talk about you when you have a disorder or if you're different. There's always a lot of talk behind your back, and you got to know how to handle that. Because first of all, I'll tell you, what people say behind your back is none of your business. And so, and my view has always been, if you don't have the guts to say it to my face, it doesn't mean shit to me. Pardon my French, I'm trying to keep it clean. But, so people started talking, and families started saying, what's he on? Is he on some sort of drug? He's acting weird, Everybody starts wondering, oh, is it drugs? So that's the first thing everybody looks at, right? Easy scapegoat. And I wish it was that. I wish it was that easy. Not that I'm not saying addiction or drugs is easy by any means. I've been fortunate not to have to deal with that, and I feel for people who have. So don't think that I'm downplaying that at all. That's a serious issue. But so is this. And it's very comparable to, the psychosis and other things involved with either drug addiction or schizophrenia or anything else. And so, mind you, back in the 90s, it was very hard to diagnose. It was very challenging to diagnose. So my parents grew I guess I better not jump that far ahead just yet. So as I continued this job, and like I was saying, all the tasks started getting more, complicated to do. I started to notice that my perception on things was changing. And what I mean by perception is like your reality. Because everybody has their own reality that they live in, right? How you perceive the world to be. And there just seems to be a general consensus of a reality amongst us to where, this is normal. You're right, this is normal. This is what a normal dog's supposed to do. This is what a normal person's supposed to do. But when your perception changes, you misunderstand a lot, and you start to perceive things to what they are not. So where you may be watching an interaction between two people, say for example, and you may think that they're getting aggressive toward each other or something, where in reality, that was not the case whatsoever. Like they were actually just talking about something totally different that you had no idea what they were talking about, but you thought, and I'm not just talking like, oh yeah, it looks like they're fighting. No, like you're like full on like, oh yeah, look at him yell at her like that. And you just really focus on it. So it's I went off on a tangent there, but so with your perception, so that's when I noticed my perception of reality started to be different than everybody else's, and that is scary. That is so scary, you know. Imagine, and it's hard to talk about these videos. I've wanted to do these for a long time, and the reason I don't and I haven't, and I put them off, is because they're very hard. Still to this day, it's been 30 years. I've lived with bipolar disorder for 30 years. Think about that. Think about like a bipolar person. They're 20 times more likely than the average person. 20 times more likely to kill themselves. Okay, keep that in mind. So, kind of lose my train of thought. So, talking about it is hard. And so, and I know I do have PTSD from what had happened when I was during that time frame, because so many things have happened that I will share with you. I'm unafraid to share these with you. I have no shame. I'm a human, and just like you know, we mess up. And so anyway, so my job became considerably harder, and I started to really mess up a lot. I was burning in screws in the wrong place on the drywall. I was not hitting the studs. I was stepping in, you know, wet concrete. I was tipping wheelbarrows over. You know, my foreman just had enough, I could tell. And what finally, you know, broke the camel's back as far as that was concerned was one day I'm working in a room and putting up a wall. And the foreman that came through, or the superintendent that came through and was taking pictures of just the job site. And here's where that first perception flaw came to reality for me, was I looked back and I saw the superintendent walk by and he snapped a picture. And I thought he was taking a picture of me. And I thought he was taking that picture of me to go and mock me to his friends, saying, look at that idiot. He can't even hang a wall right. Look at him stepping in concrete. Like I thought I was just about to be the brunt of the joke of the job site, okay? Because I'd already started having run-ins with, you know, other construction workers and stuff on the job, you know, almost got in a couple of fights, you know, then that's just not my demeanor. But anyway, so after he took the picture, I was like, no, I will not be the, you know, I'll not be the joke of anybody. So I walked over to him and I tapped him on his shoulder and I said, hey, I said, what the fuck are you doing? And he stops and he's like, what? And I said, why are you taking my picture? And he goes, what? I said, why the fuck are you taking my fucking picture? Just like that. He goes, God, he goes, what's wrong with you? He goes, I'm not taking your picture. He goes, I'm taking a picture of the job site. And so I was just like, oh, right? That little, oh, my bad. Yeah, that's quite a big my bad, right? To walk up to the superintendent and sternly ask him why the hell he's taking the picture, right? So that's when I really knew that I screwed up. And so basically from there on out throughout the rest of that day, I pretty much thought I lost my job, right? And so over the next, you know, I can't remember, there's times in the time lapse that I cannot remember. Like there are pieces of time during that time that, not just like anybody that you forget, but 95% of what happened, I can remember very vividly, almost to the week, during those months of dealing with the initial onset of bipolar disorder, which was the low side of bipolar disorder, okay, the type 2 side, which tends to be more depressive than manic, okay? So I am type 1 bipolar disorder, which is when I am in my in my low, or what you call it, I'm actually manic. So I'm in a different frame of mind. I'm not depressed. I'm more like energetic, more crazy, if you will. It's kind of hard to explain. I will explain it better as we go along. But so as those things started changing at work, so I lost my job. I can't remember just exactly how it went. But I basically, didn't go into work the one day, and then I called the office the one day to see if I still had a job, and they didn't know like what I was talking about when I called to ask if I still had a job. They're like, "Who are you? And where do you work?" And all this stuff, and excuse me, and so do I say enough? So anyway, they started mocking me over the phone, laughing at me. What are you talking about? Job. And I can hear people laughing in the background and stuff. And I remember going to pick up my last check there, and people were just kind of looking at you funny, like what's up with this guy? Like, oh, there he is. There's the one that said that. That's me and that guy. Okay. So after that, that was the first job that I've ever lost, or that I guess I left. But in my mind, I lost it, and that was hard for me because, like I said, I'm a hard worker. I take pride in my work. I've never lost a job in my life. At that time, it was winter time that this happened, and the summer before that, I owned my own landscaping business that me and my dad had started since I was 12, that I eventually bought off of him, and had quite a number of accounts that I was doing full time. And so during that winter, so on my way home, and I was still living at home with my parents, and I didn't know what I was going to tell them. I didn't know what I was going to tell my dad. The man who taught me my work ethic, the man that taught me responsibility, the man that taught me to be a man. I was going to tell him, I was going to tell my mom. She's going to be worried sick. Something's wrong. Which there was. And so they started to panic. And they, like any good parent would do, wanted to help their kids. And so they talked me into going to see a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist actually, years past, I found out that he actually pinned it from like day one, I guess, and said that he might be bipolar. But I was in such a state of denial, right? Like you don't want to admit that. You don't want to admit that you have a flaw, right? I was like, no, I'm not taking medication. I'm not taking medication for the rest of my life. I am fine. This is just whatever this is, it'll just go away. So I fought it. Took whatever BS meds he gave me to pacify my parents. And I just gradually just got worse. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And what I mean by worse is me going down and down and down. You get sad. Normal people get sad. You get a normal spike low of sadness, and then when you're happy, you kind of go this high or whatever. But with bipolar people, when we get sad, it goes like this, all the way to the ground, and then when you come back to the manic part, you're up there. Okay, best feeling ever, by the way, and that's why people don't take their meds, by the way. So that's how a manic mind works, or that's the disorder, basically. There's no irregularity in serotonin production in your brain, right? So I go off on these tangents. I forgot to get back. Hard to remember to get back on the trail here. Okay, so anyway, so I finally made it home from work. Told them I lost my job, and then from then on, my parents were like, just stay at home. You know, let's just get you figured out. You know, so you'll be ready for next mowing season or whatever. And so that was the longest winter of my life. It was terrible. Like I came down with severe social anxiety. I did not want to be around anybody. Nobody. I want to be by myself. I remember going to the mall around Christmas time with my family and looking at that mall and seeing just a sea of people and just like panicking and being like, how am I going to make it by all those eyes judging me, looking at me? And I know I feel weird and I look weird, right? But I endured it. Christmas just wasn't the same, didn't taste the same, didn't smell the same. Can't even really smell anything, right? You just kind of numb. You just forget. Just forget simple tasks like washing your body and washing your hair. Just staying clean is a challenge. And in your family, they're just dying, wondering what's going on. My dad came home from work one day because he was so distraught by what was happening to his son that he couldn't even work, he couldn't even focus. And I remember him coming home and wanting to take a nap with me. And I remember just sitting there holding me, saying, what's wrong? Just looking at my face and saying, what's wrong with you? I want my boy back. But I never wanted to leave. I didn't know where I was. I won't tell you what that almost drove him to. It's between us. But it was just devastating to the family. They just all didn't know. Okay. So that was the bottom, okay? I'd reached the bottom of wherever the hell I was going. Wherever my mind was draining to, that's what it felt like. Just felt like my mind was draining somewhere. So then the fun part comes, right? So once you're at the bottom, you start going back up, and that's when things start getting really interesting. And I will share that with you in the next video if you would like to hear about it. But thanks for watching. I appreciate all your support. This is my first video. I was inspired by people on Instagram. Because I reached out, I just said something on a comment out there saying that, you know, because I'd had some spiritual things happen to me to bring me to where I am right now, talking to you. And they were encouraging me to do these videos. And I just wanted to thank each and every one of you that commented on that. And I remember you, and I will reach out. But anyway, I love you all. Hang in there.